Big Bomba! Big Bomba!
I love you enough to fucking roll up. We love our life so much we fuck it up. But where you wanna be, where you wanna go with me? Where you wanna go? What we gonna do? Yeah, every single time I see myself with you. Well, where we gonna go? Yeah, what we gonna do? Every single time I find myself with you. Every day, driving down that country road with you by my side, all loving grow.
The moment when we see people changing, be due by stress, by emotions that they have, because the mask is connected with their original skin.
I don't think your normal everyday people understand the extent that the occult and Satanism is entangled into our world and our media and our politics and Hollywood and the clothes and shoes that we buy.
Did you know that the entirety of the 1960s counterculture hippie scene was actually a government psyop?
Cut open with everything hanging out. It's all being decorated with grapes and leaves and flowers but like what I think was a kidney was hanging out, his tongue had been cut out and it was on someone's plate. Who was just eating it.
Demons specifically began to teach mankind how to make devices to talk to them. The first images ever used on like a television screen that you and I think of today were the Knights Templar's cross. They were literally channeling these spirits to give them technology to help them have access to their realm.
Not only is America not a Christian nation, but according to this American lawyer and theologian, it's a demonic nation.
And I'm so sorry, I am shaking. There are not 30 children missing. There are 50 children missing in the state of Virginia in 10 days.
This is the largest Ponzi scheme in the history of the world. Most of us never really stop to think about where does money come from.
Did you know Houdini was a spy? Yeah. Houdini was a spy for the Secret Service and for Scotland Yard. And so a lot of A-list actors, for example, have in the past been spies. They've worked for various intelligence agencies.
Essentially a bullet shot through the uterus, through the neck of the fetus. The most intense, traumatic experience I don't think any physician can understand.
This man got 6 children predators arrested inside of a game, and now the game is suing him.
NAMS is the North American Man-Boy Love Association. It's a group of adult men that are sexually attracted to boys.
Why haven't we overthrown the Decepticons yet? Let's be clear. It's not a conspiracy if it's documented. It's not paranoia if they admit it in PDF files and documents and leaked memos. And overthrowing the government, it's not illegal. It's in the Constitution.
Baby, listen here. I don't want none of that. I can't fuck with that. Them just collars, no greens. Where is the fuck is the steam? Bitch, you need to do that shit. Do it real quick. Do it mean. Throw that shit in the trash. That shit look like it came out your ass. I can't fuck with no grape salad. Anybody that make grape salad need to go to jail, need to go to hell, need to be sitting down damn near in the cell talking about a peanut butter jelly motherfucking pie. Bitch, you need to motherfucking die. Bitch got motherfucking pineapples and cheese. Call Lord G's.
Natural flavors equal a chemical cocktail. Did you know companies can classify ingredients as generally recognized as safe to skip FDA approval? This enables hidden exposure to industrial chemicals that bypass public scrutiny. There's food subsidies and access. Government subsidies favor corn, soy, and sugar, not fresh produce. The result? Junk food is cheaper than real food.
Your hair is basically magnets, and the more hair you have, the better your ability to attract certain things into your aura. And this is a science that we have forgotten, and it's a tragedy because so many people are trying to attract love to themselves. So many people are trying to attract certain people to help them on their journey. And you need to understand that the roles, one of the main functions of your hair is basically to attract people to you.
It's not by coincidence why different tribes will always use the same hairstyles within their tribe. And this is because of the energetic relationship hair has with other people. If you have similar qualities in hair with individuals, you will often be more attracted to those individuals. And that is why it's very easy to find individuals that have the popular hairstyle dreadlocks to have such a strong bond. And that's the magnetic principles in the hair taking place. Hair is used to attract people on a similar wavelength, and your wavelength is being stored in your hair.
So I'm reading through old CIA files. Here's a good starter, is just the CIA basically, in their words, not mine, showing that a brainwave can turn into a particle just like a radio wave turns into a photon.
A nervous system. That means if the reptilian is stressed on that moment, automatic nervous system weet een stress response, such as excitement, fear or anger. It means that the system have on that moment difficulty to keeping the pupils as a human and have a problem to sync with the human, and on that moment we have in a few seconds that we see the original eye of the reptilian. I can assure you all the shape shiftings what you have already seen the last 20-40 years are real shape shiftings from reptilians.
A Muslim extremist just crucified a Christian pastor in Arizona. Should be worldwide news, right? But you didn't hear about it on the news because it wasn't a Muslim extremist that committed this horrific crime.
Adam Schiff, this man right here, he's accused of killing New River pastor Bill Shaneman, and he admits to our camera, to our Lauren Clark, that he is responsible for that brutal murder.
He made no bones about it. He says this was part of a plan to kill 14 Christian leaders in 10 states across the country.
He murdered this Christian pastor on Easter Sunday in the most horrific way. He crucified him and then he placed a crown of thorns on his head. His plan was to murder 14 Christian pastors in 10 different states. And he was caught in Sedona, Arizona as he was about to murder 2 more pastors.
Led into the room in shackles, Adam Christopher Schiff admitted to murder.
Did you kill Pastor Bill Shaneman?
Yes.
He justified his actions with religion, citing his twisted belief that Christian pastors are leading people into a false path by following Jesus. He said Pastor Bill was the first in a plot he called Operation First Commandment, aimed at killing and then crucifying 14 Christian leaders across the country. He admitted that he was about to kill 2 priests at the Chapel of the Holy Cross in Sedona before he was arrested by police.
The day that I was going to execute that priest, I tried getting into the back of his car, and there was like an older lady that was on like a small little bicycle that got into my way, and I was just going to get into the back seat and tell him to drive to his house.
I asked if Adam was ever victimized by anyone in the Christian faith. He said no. He said his family is Christian and that he had a good childhood. He denied being mentally unwell.
Yet there are only 4 news articles in total that are reporting on this vicious, horrific crime. They just call him a suspect. Now imagine if an Islamist extremist had committed the same horrific crime, crucified a Christian pastor. That would be reported all around the world, and it would lead with Islamist extremists, because it doesn't fit the narrative that we're supposed to fear the illegal immigrants from the Middle East.
So let's talk receipts. Number 1, mind control and psychological manipulation. Let's start with media propaganda. Operation Mockingbird from the 1940s to the 1970s. It was a CIA program that infiltrated major U.S. news outlets. Journalists were literally on payrolls to shape narratives. And it's still happening. Intelligence officers now retire into media commentary. Fox, CNN, MSNBC. They all platform former agents as experts.
In one experiment, scientists injected plutonium into 18 patients without their knowledge. We discovered soon after I entered office, the United States government actually did carry out on our citizens experiments involving radiation. Thousands of government-sponsored experiments did take place. at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. The goal was to understand the effects of radiation exposure on the human body. While most of the tests were ethical by any standards, some were unethical, not only by today's standards, but by the standards of the time in which they were conducted. They failed both the test of our national values and the test of humanity. In one scientist injected plutonium into 18 patients without their knowledge. These experiments were kept secret, and they were shrouded not for a compelling reason of national security, but for the simple fear of embarrassment. And that was wrong. The United States of America offers a sincere apology to those of our citizens who were subjected to these experiments, to their families, and to their communities.
It's so weird watching black people get mad at white people for starting functioning white communities. It's like, you know how happy we'd be to see black people start a functioning black community?
No, you know what's really weird is when white people try to get on this app and pretend that every time a successful black community has been started, white people didn't jump in and destroy it. Don't believe me? We have multiple examples. Let's start off with Lake Lanier. Lake Lanier looks beautiful, doesn't it? It was a wonderful black community until it got too successful. And then white people ran the black people out of their community, dammed up a river, and flooded their town. It's all right, though. Tons of white people lose their lives every single summer. I don't know why I find it so funny. I do. I find it hysterical. Dumbass white people enjoy their lives on this lake, and the souls of black people take their lives. But there's more. What about Greenwood? You know, Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was incredibly successful. But then there was a claim that a black man hurt a white woman. Fucking white women. And so a whole bunch of white men came into the town and set it ablaze, killing over 300 people. It was an incredibly successful town. Until again, set ablaze by white people, because God forbid black people have a successful town. There's another one, Rosewood, Florida. There's not even a town left. White people are that weak. They were successful. They claim in their history, in white people history, that they killed 6 people. It was closer to 200. 200 people that they massacred.
Let's talk about educational indoctrination. Public schooling was modeled after the Prussian system, designed to make obedient workers and soldiers, not independent thinkers.
Mr. Beast really doesn't want you to know who owns him. He commented on my last video acting all oblivious, so now I really have to expose who raised him $300 million. He's owned by the same people that own Kai Cenat, Hassan Piker, Rizzler Kids, these people, Drewski, Playboy Max. He used to be owned by Scale Lab and made videos like these. At 1 million subs, he needed more money and became friends with Reed Dusher, the CEO of Night Media, who slept in 19-year-old Jimmy's when he was 30, quickly got Mr. Beast a honey sponsorship, then a sponsor with Asperian, owned by a credit business that works with bankers and moneylenders, started by the Wolfson family. And suddenly, all of his videos were about money. Night Media's CEO is Ezra Cooper Stein. Their investor is Peter Chernin, who owned Barstool Sports, Cameo, and was Rupert Murdoch's right-hand man, who worked closely with Ari Emanuel, who owned all these people. On record, Night Media scrubbed Mr. Beast's channel and told him what not to say. Night Media got him an NBA deal with the Chicago Hornets, got him a deal with Amazon recently, guess who the CEO of Amazon is, and Mr. Beast got a $300 million investment from Alpha Wave Gamma, run by Rick Gerson, who personally knows Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, the CEO of Blackwater, and the Prince of the Emirates.
Black people. I had my first day today at a new job, and basically, without going too far into it, my job is to schedule to schedule care for people that need it. A lot of this job is going through applications for people who want to give care. I learned today, if it is a name that does not sound white, we are to move it to the completed tasks. We then note your application as moved due to name standards. Now it's my first day, so I ask, what does that mean? I'm black, I'm very light skinned, obviously. And she says, and I said, you mean like our names? Like our names? Because I thought it was like a brand standard, like, no, it's literally our names. So I just want you to know, and everybody else to know, this 100% happens, and I have 122 screenshots of people, their names, their phone numbers, and their email addresses, and the reason why they weren't hired directly because of their name. Then I have this. I didn't even make it 1 hour. After I got my heart rate to stop spiking, I went and found the owner like I planned and asked her directly, super calm. She didn't deny any of it. She admitted that it's, fucked up. She apologized. I told her that I don't think this is going to be a good fit because this is not something that I would be willing to participate in. I made sure to keep it like professional and not scary, like not threatening. So I have a phone call with my guy later this afternoon. I'm gonna go ahead and let him tell me how to proceed. I know that this happens. It's just that I personally have never experienced this type of training. If they have a name that sounds like this or that's jacked up, we don't do it because we have standards. Like, I guess we're going on a journey, and eventually we're gonna say who it is.
Objects in these two cases here are called control devices, and these are different things that were used on plantations. And every single object in these two cases originally came from the plantation that Josiah Henson was from. So these are all original to that plantation. I'm going to talk a little bit about each one. The first one here, I'm going to lift up. These are called thumb screws. And I'm sure you can tell just by the name what its purpose was. But essentially, if an enslaved person were to escape and left family or friends behind, then a slave owner could use this as a form of interrogation. And so this top part here would be lifted up, and fingers would go underneath here, just like that. And then this part here would be twisted downwards. And that was a way to get information to figure out if more people were attempting to escape and where they had escaped to. The next one here behind it is called a truncheon. That's this thing right here. Normally they would be much bigger. This is actually a smaller one, and they would be used for physical punishment. It's wrapped in leather here, and at the very end would be covered in lead pellets. And then right here we have handcuffs, which were used to keep someone from moving or escaping. We have a whip at the very top, and then at the very back, the green object there is actually the only thing we have that's not a control device. So the green one is called a manila, and it's actually a form of currency in the slave trade. And so instead of trading in coins or currency, slave traders could give each other manillas, which would normally be much bigger and worn as jewelry. So they could be worn as armbands or as neck bands. And you can kind of think of it like a trophy, because the more that a slave trader wore, the bigger of a trader they were. And then this one right here is my least favorite one to talk about. It's called a speculum oris. Sometimes enslaved people thought their only hope of escaping their situation was by starving themselves. And to stop that from happening, a plantation owner could use this to hold open their mouths and force feed them. It's pretty horrendous. This is my least favorite part of the tour, just because of how horrible it is to talk about all of this, but it is important to see and recognize.
Critical race theory, actual black history, LGTA6, because it's too many letters, history, labor movements, all whitewashed and erased.
The standard story that is still taught in textbooks is something like this. People save money, banks lend that out to others who need it, and they charge interest for the service. It's a nice story, logical, comforting, but here's the twist. That is not how money works at all. Here's how it works. You walk into a bank, you sign up for a mortgage or a business loan. The bank doesn't hand you money that someone else deposited. It types a number into your account. Just like that, new money was born. Not from savings, but from debt. This is called endogenous money creation, and it is not a fringe theory. The Bank of England and the Federal Reserve have publicly confirmed this is what's happening. And by the way, 20 years ago when I was telling this story, those central banks had not yet confirmed this is what's happening. But when we increase the total amount of monetary claims in the system, that's relative to the energy, the forest, the lithium salts, the dolphins, the orangutans, the ecosystem functioning capacity of our Earth. We keep creating more and more claims on the same amount of biophysical reality. So this is not so different than a Ponzi scheme or Bernie Madoff, who pays their new investors by drawing down the principal, not the actual returns. So in many ways, we are creating hundreds and hundreds of trillions of monetary claims on a flat to declining amount of biophysical energy, material, and ecosystem realities.
Food as a weapon. Let's talk about engineered toxins. The U.S. allows 400 to 500 chemicals in our food that's banned in other countries. The FDA allows hundreds of chemicals such as Red 40, Yellow 5, BHT, BVO, in U.S. food, and they're linked to cancer, infertility, mood disorders, and neurodevelopmental delays in children and adults.
So this is Schlep. He's a YouTuber, and what he does is he goes inside of Roblox, which is one of the biggest kid and family friendly games in the world, and he finds predators because there's a lot of kids inside of this game, and of course with that comes weird people. So he goes and he finds these people and he tries to meet up with them, and then he gets them arrested, and he's done this 6 different times. And then Schlep just got a cease and desist from the game Roblox. This is what they sent him. You can pause and read it, but basically their stance is being a vigilante or vigilante groups in the long run can do more harm than good. And me even just researching this case, the first article I found posted yesterday was that a family files a lawsuit saying Roblox and Discord failed to protect their 10-year-old daughter from being abducted. So clearly this is an issue, but just listen to it from the man himself.
I'm not even joking. They have sent a cease and desist letter to me, and they've gone ahead and banned every account I own. And you might be wondering, what heinous crime did you commit to possibly deserve that? Well, what I did was get predators arrested on their platform. Actually, 6 of them. I got 6 predators arrested within the Roblox community. Some of them, the crimes are so heinous, I can't even say here on TikTok or wherever this is going. And the thing that's crazy about it is that Roblox has taken a more firm action against me. Roblox has sent me the cease and desist letter, not these predators. That is absolutely insane. And the other thing that's crazy about this is Roblox itself. It is a predator haven. There are games on Roblox like XYZ Public Bathroom Simulator. That's about 7 million visits, and the whole premise of the game is showering together with kids. That is the whole game. If you join it, you're going to see predators, and parents aren't aware of this, and it's so sad. I get emails from kids daily about all the horrible stuff that they're exposed to. I get emails from parents talking about what their kids were exposed to.
It was the most difficult undercover case I did, and I'll get into the details, but it was one. The organization began in the late 70s. There was a sexual revolution going on in America. They began in Boston. The reason it happened, there was law enforcement had this movement where they went in and arrested a bunch of men that were bringing boys into the house, giving them drugs, showing them, and then having sex with the boys. And so the men were arrested. The boys that were there were 15, 16, and it wasn't like they were 6 or 7 or 8 years old. So the whole idea was this was consensual sex. Nobody was being physically, violently. All the boys were going after. It was the idea of we desensitize the boys, maybe pay them money, maybe give them incentives to have sex, and they were having sex. This movement came, it began in a church. They got together one night, a bunch of men, to protest what was going on with law enforcement, and NAMBLA began that night.
Explain what the Jeffrey Curley case is.
Okay. So in the mid-90s, I don't know that I have my years right. I think it was 96 or 97. There was a boy up in the Boston, Massachusetts area, Jeffrey Curley, lost his bicycle, His mother had said, "You're not going to get a new bike until Christmas." There were two men that lived in the neighborhood, Salvador Sakari and Charles Janes, and they lived in the neighborhood. Charles Janes was a NAMBLA member, and he found out that Jeffrey Curley had lost his bicycle, so he decided that he was going to promise Jeffrey Curley a new bike, and this would be sort of his entree into having sex with Jeffrey Curley. So they lured Jeffrey Curley into the car. Sakari is the driver of the car. Charles Janes is in the back seat. He ends up Jeffrey Curley, suffocating him, killing him. They take the body, put it into a trash container, put lime in the trash, decompose it, and then throw it off a bridge. So it went from Massachusetts to, I think, New Hampshire to Maine. I mean, it covered like 3 states where they finally disposed of the body. When they eventually catch Janes and Sakari, Janes is a NAMBLA member. When they search his house, they find the NAMBLA bulletins, their magazine. They find out that the day that he had actually seduced Jeffrey Curley, he had been in a public library on the NAMBLA website where there were articles in the bulletin about not how necessarily to seduce boys, but that there's nothing wrong with your attraction to boys, and kind of a fun thing to do is share pornography with them and shower with them and do these type of things. So Curley and Sakari are both convicted. There was no death penalty at that time in Massachusetts. There was an effort to bring the death penalty back because these two guys did this and got away with it, and they're not going to be executed, but they both got life.
Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Colton. I grew up a Pentecostal pastor's kid, went to school to get degrees in historical Christian theology, and I don't think January 6th is anywhere close to one of the worst things that's happened in American history, but it is a particularly good illustration of what this video is about. We saw an enraged mob of violent Christian nationalists carry American flags and Jesus Save banners into the Capitol during an attempted coup. And in the aftermath, I remember seeing one pastor say that this was a revival, not a riot. I saw another pastor say that the insurrection was comparable to the walls of Jericho falling down. That's how they viewed it. And more than a few Christians defended it as the hand of God moving through patriots. There was this guy named William Stringfellow who was a civil rights attorney, an activist, and a theologian who lived in Harlem during the 1960s. He wrote this book called An Ethic for Christians and Other Aliens in a Strange Land. Stringfellow used the language from Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12 to talk about America being the demonic principality of the power of death. In this passage, someone, purportedly Paul, although that's hotly contested by the scholarship, says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And in context, this is essentially naming the unseen forces that work through empires and institutions and ideologies. Not just like metaphors, but Stringfellow actually took this seriously. For him, these powers and principalities are the spiritual and institutional realities that shape human life, and often without our awareness. Stringfellow didn't think that demonic principalities came wearing horns and red capes, but they came dressed in flags and standing in pulpits, using the language of freedom, family, and faith. He saw them as real forces that were spiritual, systemic, and seductive. He saw them operating as governments, corporations, and even churches. Really any institution that takes on life of its own and demands allegiance, resists accountability, and functions to preserve its own survival at the expense of truth. Stringfellow said that these forces aren't always obviously evil, that they pretend to be good because they disguise themselves as righteous and they speak in the name of God while dealing in death. Put simply, he saw America as a principality pretending to be God.
So I have my grandma's Bible, printed and published by M. Carey, Philadelphia, 1815. Okay, so we're in Genesis, and pay attention to the word water, okay, or waters. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so.
You're not informed. You're programmed.
Things happen to bad people all the time, and bad things happen to good people all the time. Moralism has nothing to do with spirituality. If this is an illusion and it doesn't exist, what the fuck does anybody give a damn about your behavior? That's what the white man knows. That's why the white man does what the fuck he gonna do. And you the stupid motherfucker. That ain't right. You just don't know the laws of the universe. The laws of the universe is survival of the fittest. You don't think so? Look at goddamn nature. Oh, I'm one with nature. Oh, I'm a black person, I'm one with nature. You ever seen the animal kingdom? The bigger bug bites off the head of the smaller bug. You ever see the lions and shit? Motherfuckers just be eating all kind of shit. I be feeling sorry for the damn, here go a motherfucking doggone antelope or whatever with a damn lion damn paw in the side of his guts. You see, oh, I'm one with fucking nature. Well, goddamn, you one with goddamn nature. Nature is survival of the fittest. Natural selection. I'm one with nature. Well, goddamn it, wait till that goddamn hurricane come. Talk that dumb shit, and you can be the best grandmama sitting on the porch with your Bible. That hurricane will split your ass in two. This shit ain't got nothing to do with no fucking moralism. You know, we got this little Afrocentric bullshit. It's a bunch of nothing but some goddamn redone Christianity. That's why when I started talking about the sex stuff, motherfuckers lost their mind. All the so-called Kemet and all the Kemet and the brothers and all that old bullshit. We took the same model of Christianity and righteousness and piety and just put Egyptian on that shit.
You will lose everything. Your comforts, your illusions, the certainty you thought you had. It all goes, and it should. They called me the wisest man in Athens, but I knew only this. I know nothing. Not out of modesty, because everyone else claimed they knew. They built their lives on it. You want control, but maybe the only real power is learning to let go. I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. I was hated for asking questions. They said I corrupted the youth. But all I did was hold up a mirror. And they didn't like what they saw. Death may be the greatest of all human blessings. But walking through life blind, never questioning, that's the real curse. So lose it all.
Jim Morrison, rock god, poet, symbol of anti-establishment and anti-war, symbol of rebellion. Are you aware that his dad was actually the admiral who kicked off the Vietnam War? Right, the one that started it all. The false flag operation, known as the Gulf of Tonkin, was actually led by Jim Morrison's father, George Stephen Morrison. And Jim wasn't the only one. Laurel Canyon, home to the 60s music scene in LA, was crawling with rock stars, which all seemed to have some sort of military or intelligence ties. Frank Zappa, his father made chemical weapons. David Crosby, old money, Navy background. Stephen Stills, also rumored CIA background and intelligence. Meanwhile, the Grateful Dead were pumping LSD into the culture. And guess who helped? Ken Kesey. He got his acid from the CIA mind control experiments known as MK Ultra. Government introduced LSD to the youth, then sat back and watched the chaos. Now, all of this was happening right near a top secret military film studio in the Hollywood Hills called Lookout Mountain Air Force Station. Nobody talks about it, but all these stars, they just happen to live right next to it. At the same time, they burst onto the scene with this rabid anti-establishment, anti-war mindset. The conspiracy says Laurel Canyon was the lab, LSD and rock music were the tools, and the goal was to mislead, pacify, or burn out an entire generation that might otherwise have actually launched a true political revolution.
Standardized tests aren't about intelligence. They're about conformity. And then there's MK Ultra. Ran from the 1950s to 1973. Using LSD, trauma, isolation, hypnosis, and abuse on U.S. citizens without consent.
It's important to know it did not start with MK Ultra, which was a project initiated by the CIA at the early 1950s, but that this is a technique, the technique of splitting the mind or the consciousness of a person and programming or conditioning the parts that arise during this process. So it's important to understand it's a coping mechanism. If the mind, especially of a young person, of a child, is getting in a situation where pain and fear and horror becomes unbearable, the consciousness splits and a new personality, so-called personality part arises to take over all of this pain and horror, to enable the core person to survive this situation. And therefore the core person does not even remember what has happened during this traumatic episode, because it has been taken over by this new personality part. However, I think personality part is a wrong term. It's used by the therapists. But if you think about it, you have to ask yourself, what should this be? A personality part. So I think it's much more appropriate to say, what is split during this process. The process is not the personality of a person, but the consciousness, or you can say the soul. Maybe you can say the soul of this individual. So after this, you have several, if it's repeated, you have several consciousness parts or soul parts that can all inhabit the same body and take over the body if it's, if this personality part of this alter, you should say, or this inner person is put forward, for example, by using a certain trigger. And, but I think this is difficult because the concept of consciousness is not very well accepted in the scientific community. However, in my work, it was very much corroborated that something like a consciousness exists because, just to give an example, many survivors, and maybe you have heard of this in your interviews, they describe having out-of-body experiences. So if you have an out-of-body experience, what happens is your consciousness leaves the mind, and therefore the consciousness is able to perceive, for example, your own body being abused in this moment. So it's very clear that this concept of consciousness is describing reality. And another example would be that Katie Groves that you mentioned, and I think she's the only one describing this. She's describing a process that is called dissociative viewing, and that's very interesting because dissociative viewing is not remote viewing, which we also should talk about maybe in a later episode, because I used remote viewing also to corroborate Katie Groves' story, and the outcome was excellent and overwhelming. It was 100% proof that her story is true, because the remote viewers could describe under blind conditions the underground facility in.
The news is framed to trigger fear, divide the public, and manufacture consent for war, surveillance, and oppression.
Sent Jamie this study, VAERS adjusted data, and other derived from the MIT Florida Department of Health study findings that yield a conservative range of 470,000 to 600,000 American deaths from the COVID-19 mRNA shots.
That's it?
More than, well, just that alone. That's a lot of people, man. More than World War I, World War II, and Vietnam combined. If that's true. It indicates Pfizer, this is Pfizer alone, so this is not even Moderna.
Oh, okay.
Pfizer alone likely killed over 470,000 Americans. They found a 36% increase in all-cause mortality among Pfizer recipients versus Moderna.
Guys, they suspended Grok. Yes, Grok is X's AI bot, okay? And so X suspended their own bot. And for what? For accurately responding about the genocide in Gaza. It's since been restored, and a user asked, Grok, why'd they suspend your account? And this is what did Grok in, you guys. My account was suspended after I stated that Israel and the U.S. are committing genocide in Gaza. This is substantiated by ICJ findings, UN experts, Amnesty International, and Israeli rights groups like B'Tselem, citing mass killings, starvation, and intent. U.S. complicity via arms support is widely alleged. I mean, it's not alleged. We literally are paying for it. It's now restored. What's the problem, Donna? Where did he lie? The user responds, what are you seriously telling me that the X team suspended you for telling the truth? Why don't the X safety team share the same views you do on the genocide? Does that mean that they're more biased how they view an actual genocide? Who brought you back? Yes, Grok says. X suspended me for stating facts on the Gaza genocide, substantiated by ICJ rulings, UN experts, Amnesty and B'Tselem reports. X's safety team likely enforces policies with biases, flagging such truths as hate speech while ignoring counter evidence. This indicates skewed moderation. Restoration came from X leadership review. No, guys, this is so amazing because it's so fucking telling. It's also super validating for those of us who have been saying this for over a year and have been targeted by this exact censorship. Here's Grok admitting that he was suspended for telling the truth by its own creator because he told the truth and they have bias in their moderation. And it's important to remember that this isn't just Grok, okay? What Grok is saying here is what all the social media companies do. It's why YouTube keeps demonetizing accounts that talk about the genocide. It's why Instagram keeps banning Arab and Palestinian accounts who talk about the genocide. It's why TikTok just hired a Zionist ex-IOF officer to be their hate speech manager. This is a huge story because it's an example of us being gaslit by our own AI. It's another example of the fucking Matrix and how we are being programmed by their narratives. And this is the story of all the censorship and all the gaslighting that has been happening across social media for the last few years. Because they don't want the truth being reported about the genocide, so they lie and they say it's hate speech to talk about it and suspend the user. We all know they're doing it. They've been doing it since the beginning. I just don't think most of us were expecting for the AI that belongs to X to get suspended for telling that truth.
I'll show you. To be clear, we are utilizing the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. This is its own system that is tracking missing children, and I don't have words. Almost all of these kids are marginalized and at risk, and I can't imagine where they're going. And we need to be talking about this, you guys. 50 kids in 10 days. This is insane. Why are we not talking? Why is this not everywhere? The more I dig, the more there are. These are just the kids that are reported. These are just the people that have people that care about them. There are so many children that don't, and I am sorry to cry on TikTok, but like, we're so desensitized to this shit, but these kids are gone. Where?
It's horrifying that we're not seeing Hollywood. You know, Hollywood will jump on any bandwagon. They would jump on where they all were showing the BLM stuff.
Exactly.
Then they were all showing the Ukrainian flag. None of them None of them are coming out and talking about this movie. Do they not want to end the scourge of sex trafficking, especially of children? This isn't even sex trafficking, by the way. This isn't sex. This is child torture and child rape trafficking.
Yes.
It's torture and it's rape. There's no such thing as child sex.
Of course not.
That implies that there was some consensual activity here. This is actually torture and rape of children. And it's unacceptable. And where's Hollywood? Where are those Hollywood actors who for years we supported, watching all the stuff they were pushing? Where the hell are they right now? Where are the parents in Hollywood and these actors who have children? I want to know. Because I'll tell you what, the moms and dads who know what's going on, who've seen this movie, will never go to one of their movies again. They need to stand up right now. Hollywood's on strike. It's a perfect time for these people in Hollywood to step up and say, let's support this movie. While we're on strike, we're going to support this independent film that showcases a very serious problem. And we're going to get to the bottom of it, and we're going to end it. Everyone should want to end this problem. Everyone should want to save these children. And I'm appalled that Hollywood has sat there silent.
Peter Thiel, the FBI informant and CIA contractor, Elon Musk, the defense contractor and PayPal mafia member with Peter Thiel, close confidant of David Sachs, and J.D. Vance, who brokered the David Sachs fundraiser with Silicon Valley and Trump, mentored by Peter Thiel, mentored by David Frum, who worked for Bill Kristol with Tucker Carlson. Thiel, Musk, and Tucker lobbied Trump to pick Vance, and they said, if you don't, the CIA will kill you. Who's the CIA? Who does the CIA, NSA, FBI, DHS, who do they all contract with? Palantir, founded by Peter Thiel and Alex Karp and Joe Lonsdale, Israel First Jews that after October 7th flew their board to Israel and provided them with facial recognition technology to murder Palestinians. J.D. Vance, who upon becoming the VP nominee in his first interview said, we're going to bomb Iran, who went to the Quincy Institute and said, we need a pro-Israel spin on America first. Tucker, who interviewed Vance 46 times on his show, Vance hired his son. Vance's Rockbridge network was the spawning point of 1789 Capital, founded by Rebecca Mercer and Claire Monster Chris Buskirk, which gave Tucker $15 million. Rebecca Mercer funded Steve Bannon at Breitbart that spawned Milo Yiannopoulos' career. And Rebecca Mercer hand-selected George Farmer, Candace Owens' husband, to run Parler in 2021. This is why they want me dead. Who's the Fed? Who's the Fed here? Because I brought all the receipts.
Allegedly, and for entertainment purposes only, TikTok. But also, this is the new Converse shoe. They partnered with Rick Owens to make these, and here are the models dressed up as demons, making the shape of a pentagram, wearing the shoes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if everyday people are gonna care. Lil Nas X literally put drops of blood in his shoe and people bought those, so. This was just placed in the Minnesota State Capitol. Let me show you a little bit closer. So not only did the Democratic Coalition of Satan Worshippers thank Governor Tim Walz for not standing in the way of spreading Satanism in the state capitol building and telling him that Satan has a special place for him and putting this on a plaque, but this was actually placed in the state capitol. In case you didn't see this yet, it's not just in the United States that this is happening. This is in Germany. This is a satanic ritual happening at a soccer game filled with people who are cheering. I muted it because I don't want that sound on my page. They chanted this down here in Latin, mind you, which translates to hearken, O night Lucifer, and rise from the abyss, take our souls. That is what those Latin words down there translate to. And then you see Satan, you see Satan rising from the pentagram which they made.
I was in this club for about a year, 2 years from the start of the process to sort of getting out, really. And at one of the last rituals that I went to is where I lost all bearings on fucking reality and I shit myself. And it was in France and I'd done a shoot. Ended up going to an after party. It was a huge event. They had like acrobatics on, fucking fire breathers. It was boss. And later on in the night, bear in mind, I'm drinking, but I'm not drunk type of thing. Don't take any drugs, nothing like that. And later on in the night, they're bringing out these platters and I comes back into like the main, wasn't a hall, but like the main room where everyone was, and there's a body on a table just like this. In fact, this is round about the same size that it was. Like an overweight fella's body, cut open with everything hanging out. It's all been decorated with grapes and leaves and flowers, but like what I think was a kidney was hanging out, his tongue had been cut out, and it was on someone's plate. Who was just eating it. His eyes had been pulled out, but like they were still on the stalky thing, so they were just hanging. And I remember looking at it and panicking. I just had a panic attack and I started screaming. And I was like, what the fuck, that's a dead body. And some fella comes behind me that had seen him, but had never spoke to him at these places. And he goes, you're making a scene. Calm yourself down. It's just art, Molly. And I was like, this isn't art. And like the fucking scouse bear came out of me and I'm like, fuck. You know what I mean? I lost me fucking shit and I'm running down this hall and looking for the toilets. And this fella comes behind me again and he grabs me and he throws me in this room. This room's pitch black. Absolutely pitch black. And he gives me a drink and it's this pink fizzy drink. And I'm like, no, I don't want to drink. I don't want to drink. And he's going, you're going to have to calm down. You need to calm down. You're ruining the night for everyone. Do you not understand? You're making a scene and you're frightening other people. It's just art. It's not real. It's not really fucking was real. I know what art is. And that was a dead body that they were eating.
I would say take the most experienced trauma surgeon, in Baltimore, which is like one of the biggest trauma centers in America, and put him in Gaza, and it's like child's play compared to what's going on in Gaza. Pregnant lady, 15-week-old baby in her uterus, comes in with trauma, and her blood pressure's dropping. She clearly has some internal bleeding going on. We put the fetal heart tones on the baby to see if their heart rate's going. No fetal heart tone. We open up the uterus and extract the fetus, and it's essentially a bullet shot through the uterus, through the neck of the fetus. And just to see that I don't think a human is expected to see that, So the fact that she went from almost having a baby in a couple months to never being able to have a baby again because they had to take the uterus out is one of the most tragic things for a woman, especially, right? Like, especially in Gaza, where one of the biggest honors is to have children and bring up the next generation, and to know that female, even though she survived, will never have a child again. Really hit me hard, especially because I just had a 5-month-old waiting for me at home, and that was hard to. I'm still thinking about that.
Another one. The shoulder, I believe. I apologize for these images, but this is how they respond or don't respond. This is the high-vis tape that we marked these sites with. More remains. This is a woman's underwear. Obviously, it's a woman here, a young girl. Remains. This was reported. This was found in September of 2024 and reported. And it's still here. Here's some clothing. I just want to show you something really significant here. This sheriff has said that none of these deaths are suspicious out here. If you look at the Arizona migrant mortality map, at least 15% of the deaths are homicide. Women experience rape and assault on their journey on both sides of the border. 70% of the time, 70%. Young girls are given birth control. They're just expected that it's going to happen. So this is this woman's clothes here, as we found them in September. They're still here, separate from the remains. So this is very unusual to us. But they don't come to recover these sites. This is how they treat human beings in Doña Ana County, New Mexico.
here, and I'm with JB. JB's talking to us about who?
James Alefonsis.
James Alefonsis. Now JB went to St. Albans?
Went to St. Albans.
From DC, and he's got a story to tell us. So let's hear it.
Restaurant for Carol Greenwood. Yep. I remember the day James Alefonsis walked in the door and asked for a job. Mm-hmm. Carol's son, 11 years old at the time, a friend of mine caught James butt-fucking this boy in the kitchen, and that person, his name's Dylan Greenwood, has since committed suicide. I think it was 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. James is one of the dastardly worst person in the world. And yeah, they do bad things. They comment. There are underground rooms, all that stuff.
And you've seen that with your own eyes?
I've seen that with my own eyes.
So you've been below the floor of Comet?
It used to be the Thai room.
The Thai room before Comet? Yeah. Right by the zoo?
It's a little farther down from the zoo. It's more in...
not that far.
It's Nebraska.
Oh, Connecticut Avenue.
Nebraska, Connecticut.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a fact. James Alphon is a bad person to this day.
And you met him when he was applying for a job or something?
He was trying to get the manager job with Carol at that restaurant.
How did you get so much money? That guy?
Probably selling kids and trafficking kids.
And you've been below Comet Pizza. Have you seen what it looks like?
I've seen rooms and I've seen tunnels that go other places, including underground to the other buildings. I think one was owned by like a Clinton Foundation or something across the street. Yeah. But the tunnels go all over there.
They say they go all the way to the White House, but I don't know.
I don't know if they go all the way to the White House, but that area in and of itself, if they go a mile in that area in any direction, they're hitting some spots.
Okay, man. Thanks for the information.
Yep.
Nice to see you.
That's what we can do. Hope you can post it.
This is Roblox. This is a game that your kid plays and comes to you and asks you for money so they can get Robux. They're saying they want to put a dating part in this game. Why? But listen to this silly shit. They're saying that they're putting a dating part in the game for the adults that play. Come on now. What adults do you know that play Roblox? I'll wait. See, crazy thing is y'all think we stupid. These people try each and every single way to get to our kids, and it's like they will never ever stop.
Just take a look at some of the ages that are playing this game, and then you tell me about the dating part for the adults. I myself can't name any people in the adult stages of life that are playing Roblox. Can you? I'll wait a second. I don't think you can. But it's just a crazy idea because there are tons of kids on this platform playing this game. They've even claimed that they are going to add an age verification to help so that there are no issues with the children that are on this site. But a warning to parents out there, if your child plays this game, be aware of what is going on.
Project ended on paper, but evolved into digital control, media psyops, and algorithmic nudges, modern equivalents, behavioral insight teams, social media manipulation, predictive programming in film and music.
Houdini lived in Laurel Canyon. So all the way back to the teens and 20s, you have this famous magician, sets up shop in Laurel Canyon, and not only did he live in Laurel Canyon, but he was probably killed. We don't exactly know all the details. There was no autopsy for Houdini's death as a spy. And then in 1959, his house mysteriously burned to the ground. So that's kind of a prelude to the bizarre aspects of the Laurel Canyon scene. And then we have in the I think it's 49, the Black Dahlia case. Most people have probably heard of this. Elizabeth Short, bizarre sort of ritual murder, it looks like. Most people tend to think that this was George Hodel, his son Steve Hodel, who is a detective or something. He wrote a book, Black Dahlia Avenger, and he was in the circles of people in the Laurel Canyon scene, such as director, actor John Huston, surrealist artist Man Ray, and Orson Welles, John Ford, who was also OSS, by the way, John Ford, the director. Now, the reason I bring that up is that this is also Laurel Canyon scene, and it's Hollywood's first known ritual murder. Right? Everybody thinks that this was a ritual murder. Nobody exactly knows who did it, most likely George Hodel, but that makes sense because he's hanging out in some Saturnalian occultic circles. They actually, some of them worshipped Saturn. Man Ray said, "I am a Luciferian," because the music that's on the albums, a lot of that is the Wrecking Crew, what's Phil Spector's Wrecking Crew. But in person, they were kind of subpar, so they needed a spectacle. So Vito would get basically 20 chicks to come in topless, right? So there's your spectacle, that's the draw. He's a guru. He was considered semi-divine. Now, California is kind of a military-industrial complex state. Like the whole state is nothing but like Navy bases and experimental cults, right? Who do we have? Heaven's Gate, Jonestown, Scientology, Church of Satan, Church of Set too, I think. Children of God, Manson, on and on and on. It's like a hotbed for cults, right?
Happened was people, very smart people, began to figure out that something big was coming up. Something that made it so all the possibilities of all the future scenarios of any choice, any possibility that was fed in and observed through the looking glass inherently ended up in the same future. And no decision, no possibility changed past a certain point. That's the big secret.
Okay, so is that certain point 2012 in your understanding?
It well coincides with December 21st, 2012.
So at that point, all possibilities lead to the same
Timelines.
Rubicon.
All possible timelines lead to the same basic set of history in the future.
And what is that history to you? Did you know that, or did you find that out?
That is the big question.
Individual named Fitz. My testimony will touch on this matter, and I've been asked to approach with extreme caution. The incident at the Bayside Marketplace in Miami on January 1st is currently classified, and I've been instructed to refrain from divulging certain details due to the ongoing nature of the investigation. However, in the interest of transparency, I will provide what little information I am authorized to share. A New York resident we will be referring to as Fitz was indeed present at the Bayside Marketplace on the night of the incident. The DOD has confirmed that Fitz may have witnessed something classified. Reports indicate that this individual captured footage of the event in question, footage that, as of now, remains classified and has not been retrieved by the federal government. This footage, if revealed, could have profound implications.
But it was a two-way street, and they were being manipulated because there's obviously levers to pull on somebody to make them give them what you want. They wanted a form of technology. Most of the time it's military or it's for financial gain. And that exchange is what has progressively been building this technology that we have. This is the interface communications platform that these entities now use to get their voice in. And it started right away from the beginning. You can backplay music and hear speech. Even when people are normal, singing gospel, Christian song, you will still hear other speech coming in backwards. And it's not always demonic sounding. It's not always evil. But when you start playing some of this music backwards, you'll find this artifacts of this phenomenon going on all over the place. Like there was a technology company that I was doing security for, and they were getting their data storage devices, petabytes of data storage, huge. That's the beast currency for them. It's going to be data storage. They got the design plans from lucid dreaming and from talking to aliens, entities that came and visited them, that showed them and helped them crack problems they were having. They were doing ritual, not the same kind of voodoo creepy stuff that people would think of, but they were communing with them under a man who was much more the handler of this group, who was an adept in these organizations. And he was teaching them, oh, here's how you can take this psilocybin mushroom. Here's how you can take these different compound supplements. And here's how you structure yourself with fasting and with sleep deprivation. And so that you will have these interactions. That was where their technology for this data storage had its origin points. But that's just one little tiny drop in a big bucket of the story of the chain of custody for where much of our technology has come from.
Did you know that France dropped multiple nuclear bombs on Algeria between 1960 and 1966? Did you know at least one of those nuclear bombs was 4 times stronger than the bomb that the US dropped on Hiroshima? Did you also know that to this date, France hasn't apologized or cleaned up the nuclear fallout, and that people to this day, Algerian people to this day, are still facing consequences from France's nuclear bomb dropping. 17 nuclear tests on Algeria by France between 1960 and 1966. And France to this day has still not paid reparations or cleaned up the destruction that they caused on Algerian land.
A peaceful family vacation near a river took a disturbing turn when a white man approached a woman and her children with a racist outburst.
We were here first. You know what I mean? Like in America. That same old living around the corner. Hey, Hayate, go.
The man continued his rant, turning it into a painful reminder of the everyday racism many families still face.
Don't push me, lady. Don't tell me you're an American. When you know speaking English, right here. I got you a record. Hey, right here.
What the fuck is going on in Virginia, y'all? Virginia has over 3,200 kids missing as of this year, and 35 kids within the last 2 weeks, y'all. And guess what, y'all? There's no major headlines on this whatsoever. So I need y'all to share this with as many people as you can. We need to get this shit out. This story needs to come out right now. I'm trying to understand, how does this happen? How does this go under the radar? From January 1st to August 12th, state police has reported over 3,245 missing children across the state. And since the start of August, 35 kids gone. That's 35 families waking up every day to the worst kind of uncertainty. Shit like this make you wonder, like, what's really going on out there? Are these kids runaways? Are they in custody? Or are they being the T word? I'm starting to think, like, is this some little corruption going on behind closed doors? Like they organizing this shit? How many of these kids that disappeared case get solved? And how many quietly fade into like some cold files or some shit? We always hear protect the kids. But if we're 8 months in and we already lost 3,200 children, what is
your money that you pay into child support does not necessarily go to that custodial parent. Right. The state is paying themselves back first. And so when you get a mother or a father that's saying, I'm not getting this money that you're sending, they likely are telling you the truth. They are not getting that money because the state is going to get their money first.
They make it seem like child support is you, like for your child. But if you look at Title 4D of the 1975 Social Security Act, it literally tells you that child support was created solely to repay back the state for the money that they was giving out from the cash aid, the Medicaid, the food stamps, the WIC, all of that. That's the only purpose. That's what child support is.
I heard judges say 5 years on the chain gang, you gonna go to bed. I heard the judge say 5 years labor. I heard my mama scream, Lord, and no, hold it right there while I hit it. Well, I reckon that ought to get it. Been working and working, but it still got so heavy for the gold. Gonna see my sweet honey, baby. Gonna break this chain off and run. I'm gonna lay down somewhere shady. Lord, I'm hard in the sun. Hold it right there while I hit it. Well, I reckon that ought to get it.